Romina Celeste Núñez was a Paraguayan immigrant who went to Spain in search of a better life. In Spain, she met a successful engineer named Raúl Díaz, who married her and made several promises. However, Raúl Díaz was far from Prince Charming, and what he did to Romina shocked everyone. Hi guys, welcome to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to talk about a case that occurred in Spain in early 2019. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. Raúl Díaz was a successful Spanish engineer and was 40 years old at the time of the events. He was a father of 2 daughters and single when he met 29-year-old Romina Celeste Núñez. Romina had arrived in Spain a few years earlier, coming from Ñemby, a city near Asunción, the capital of Paraguay, and was therefore an immigrant. Romina worked as a call girl, first in Madrid, where her aunt lived, and then in Lanzarote, where she met Raúl Díaz. She left 2 children in Paraguay, who were raised by their maternal grandparents. She dreamed of one day, when her financial situation improved, taking her children to live with her in Spain. Raúl and Romina met in a nightclub, and shortly afterwards they began a relationship. In August 2018, they got married and started living together in the city of Costa Teguise, a coastal city located on the island of Lanzarote, which belongs to Spain. Even before the wedding, Raúl displayed abusive and violent behavior. He was known for his addiction to drugs and alcohol, and also for frequenting numerous nightclubs. A few days before the wedding, Romina was attacked by Raúl, but she preferred not to report it, as she believed that this could harm her wedding, which was already scheduled. After the wedding, things became worse. Raúl became even more violent, and Romina ended up in the hospital on multiple occasions. She consistently came up with an excuse to the medical team when asked about the bruises she had. Once, Romina even went to the hospital, but before she could even be treated, Raúl showed up at the location and forcefully took her away. Romina shared with friends the fear she had of Raúl, and also the fear that besides assaulting her, he could do something worse to her. All those in close proximity to the couple knew that if things kept going this way, it wouldn't have a positive outcome. And it really didn't end well. At the beginning of 2019, Romina mysteriously disappeared. Her family in Paraguay, who had not received any news from her for several days, became worried and decided to call Raúl, as Romina was not answering her cell phone. On the phone, Raúl acted completely indifferent and just told Romina's mother that she went for a walk and would be back home soon. It was only a week later that Raúl went to the authorities in Spain and said that his wife had been missing for a few weeks. He claimed to the police that he did not report her missing before, as it was common for her to disappear on her own when they argued, but then she would return. Already in the first hours of searching for Romina, the police began to suspect Raúl. Something in his story didn't make sense. The police then decided to keep an eye on the man and tapped his phone. In one call, Raúl told a relative how he burned parts of his wife's body on a barbecue, cut up the rest, and threw it in trash bags. After that, he said he rented a car and drove to Los Hervideros, one of Romina's favorite spots on the island, where he threw the suitcases containing her remains into the sea. While under police surveillance, Raúl also sought legal advice from 3 criminal defense lawyers for guidance and support in his situation. The attorneys were unable to speak to the authorities about the conversation they had with Raúl due to the legal protection of attorney-client privilege. However, the police believe that the content of this conversation pertains to details of the crime that Raúl committed. The lawyers later told the police that they advised Raúl to surrender. In addition to the lawyers, police said Raúl contacted a friend who was a Spanish national police officer. In conversation with this friend, Raúl said that when he arrived at his house, he found Romina already dead. According to him, upon seeing his wife in that state, he became scared and decided to get rid of the body because he knew that the authorities would think that he was the one who committed the crime. He told his friend how he divided Romina's body into parts and then disposed of it, its clothes and all the tools used to cut it up. In the middle of January, Raúl Díaz was arrested and formally charged with the crime against Romina Núñez. In an examination carried out at his home, the police found traces of blood in several rooms of the property and also on a pair of gardening shears that were seized by the authorities. Although an analysis was not carried out at that time, the police suspected that the blood was Romina's. This indicated that she had been the victim of the crime in the house, and given the amount of blood traces that were around the place, she was badly injured. This also indicated that Raul was lying. He told his police friend that he found his wife dead, and then got rid of her body by dividing it into pieces. According to Raul, he would have done this in a specific place in the house, in this case the property's garage. However, as I just mentioned, the police found traces of blood throughout the house. After Raul's arrest, search teams were set up to try to locate Romina's remains that were thrown into the sea. A sniffer dog picked up the victim's trail a few days later. The animal is one of the best at this type of work and had already worked on other famous cases involving crimes in Spain. While the search was carried out, a man walking along Las Cucharas beach in Costa Teguise found something strange in the sand that had been left by the sea waves. The man, not knowing what that was, called a lifeguard in the hope that he would know what it was. The lifeguard assumed it was a piece of a lifeless dolphin and threw it into a trash container. However, when the man saw reports on the news about Romina and the search for her remains at sea, he decided to inform the authorities about what he had found on the beach. Authorities collected the supposed piece of dolphin and sent it for analysis. A few days later, it was discovered that the supposed dolphin was actually a human lung. With this discovery, authorities decided to extract DNA from the lung to compare with DNA from blood remains found throughout Raul's house, and the result came back positive. This indicated that the lung found in the beach sand belonged to Romina Núñez. In his first police statement, Raul Diaz defended himself by saying that he had not done any harm to Romina. He stated that they simply had an argument, and then he made the decision to depart from the residence in order to clear his mind, remaining outside for a couple of hours. According to him, when he returned home, he found Romina already dead. He said that the woman had consumed a lot of narcotics, and the cause of her death was probably an overdose. He then, out of fear, purportedly contemplated a method to dispose of the body, since he did not wish to take chances of being charged with a crime he was innocent of. And that's when he had the idea to divide the body into parts, then burn it and throw it into the sea. When questioned by the police regarding the motives for the alleged argument he had with Romina, Raul stated that it was because she had asked him for money so she could bring their children from Paraguay to Spain. He said he didn't like that idea and didn't want his wife's children around. Raul emphasized that he was against the presence of his wife's children in Spain. For the police, there was a possibility that Raul was telling the truth when he said he did not take Romina's life that day. However, Romina may have died as a result of the injuries she had, resulting from the attacks suffered by Raul. The police believe that Raul may have beaten his wife so much that she caused serious injuries, and as he did not let her go to the hospital for treatment, these injuries caused her death. The traces of blood found in Raul's house indicated that Romina had been attacked in several rooms of the property. In some rooms, the blood was more recent, showing that the woman suffered numerous attacks on different days. Her medical records showed that she was in the hospital several times on different dates, but the causes of the injuries were never classified as assault, as Romina always lied. Raul spent a few years in pre-trial detention, awaiting his trial. In January 2021, he filed an appeal to get out of prison, arguing that he had been imprisoned for 2 years without trial and had to care for his sick mother and sister. However, authorities found that there were already people caring for Raul's mother and sister, who at the time lived in another city. To try to convince the judge that there was no risk of flight, Raul spoke about his 2 daughters, the result of a previous relationship. He said he loved his daughters very much and would never run away because he couldn't bear to be away from them. The girls, as far as we know, never visited him in prison. According to sources, Raul was not tried on the scheduled date due to the tactics of his defense lawyers who did everything to delay the investigations and consequently the completion of the police investigation. Furthermore, other external factors also delayed Raul's criminal case. To begin with, the global health problem came that ravaged the world, and several sectors of society had to stop. Afterwards, Raul started changing his lawyers, something that delayed the process even further. When the trial date was on the verge of being set, Raul's newly appointed lawyer indicated that a forensic examination still needed to be conducted. This examination would determine if gardening scissors would be able to cut human limbs. For this, it was necessary to wait for the opinion of the experts who were appointed for this task. Only after that could the case return to the first instance court. It took almost a month for this examination to be carried out and attached to the case. After that, Raúl's lawyers found a way to delay the process once again. According to Spanish law, the maximum time for someone accused of a crime to be held in pretrial detention, that is, without being tried, is just 2 years. When this period expires, it can be exceptionally extended by up to 4 years, but this is the limit. As a result, after 4 years in pretrial detention without trial, Raúl had to be released, as determined by local laws. The release, which took place in January 2023, outraged society and provoked a game of push and pull between institutions, without any of them assuming any responsibility. The Superior Court of Justice of the Canary Islands released a letter considering it excessive that the Institute of Legal Medicine and Forensic Sciences of Las Palmas took more than 2 years to prepare and send to the court an expert report on scissors that had been seized from the suspect's home. This report had been ready in almost a month, however. When the experts passed the report on to be sent to the court, the documents were frozen for more than 2 years, and this contributed to Raúl being released from prison. After being released from prison, Raúl had to comply with a series of demands from the authorities. He would have to appear in court every Monday. He would have to have a fixed address in Spain, and he could not, under any circumstances, leave the country. Emilia Zabalos, Romina's family lawyer, filed a lawsuit asking that Raúl have to appear in court every day. She did this so that control over him was maximized and the risk of escape was reduced. However, judicial authorities said Raúl's appearance before the court once a week was sufficient. During the time that Raúl was in pretrial detention, Romina's family lawyer did everything possible to prevent him from serving the 4 years of pretrial detention, as she knew that if that happened, Raúl would be released from prison. On 2 occasions, the lawyer agreed with Raúl's defense so that they could reach a compliance agreement. In other words, an agreement in which Raúl's sentence would be reduced in exchange for not reaching the point where the man would be released for fulfilling the maximum limit of pretrial detention. However, any agreement between lawyers for the victim and the accused must have the approval of the public prosecutor's office, and in this case, the public prosecutor's office did not give the green light for the agreement to proceed and did not even comment on the matter. Lawyers for both parties even contacted the public prosecutor's office, but received no response. Emilia Zabalos, the lawyer representing Romina's family, said that there had been negotiations with Raúl's defense lawyers since October 2022 to reach an agreement. This deal would avoid a trial, give Raúl Diaz a reduced sentence, and Romina's mother and children would receive compensation. Raúl Diaz's trial began on June 2, 2023, in the City of Justice, in the capital of Gran Canaria. In court, Raúl surprised everyone. He changed his initial version of the facts and decided to confess to the crime. Raúl also acknowledged all the attacks he committed against Romina and said he was responsible for all the harm caused to her. He admitted that he took her life and said he did it because she was inferior to him. He gave details of how he divided the victim's body into parts and then disposed of it on the city's coast. Raúl also mentioned that he had made an advance payment for the victim's family compensation. Still at trial, the prosecution stated that Romina lived in a relationship of extreme vulnerability and dependence. This would be the reason why she did not report her husband. Raúl allegedly deceived Romina by saying that he liked her and that he wanted to get her out of her life as a call girl. He would have promised the woman a lot of things, including that she would no longer need to work and that she could bring her children from Paraguay to live with them in Spain. However, after the wedding, Raúl, who had already demonstrated violent behavior, became even worse. In addition to physical violence, the man also used psychological violence against his wife, showing great contempt for her. This whole violent situation took a toll on Romina's mind, who, according to her friends, was very depressed. Away from her family and without anyone close to her to lean on, Romina became increasingly dependent on Raúl, to the point that he did whatever he wanted with her, something that ended up resulting in a brutal crime. The investigations concluded that on January 1st, at an undetermined time, Raúl took Romina's life, probably by suffocating her after attacking her. After that, he divided her body into several parts and burned these parts on his barbecue in the backyard behind his house. Raúl said in court that he followed instructions he found on a blog on how to dispose of a body. Still, according to Raúl, the barbecue was on fire for 3 days in a row. At one point, the flames reached several meters high, as human fat is a very powerful fuel. Just a curiosity here, guys. During my research on human fat being a powerful fuel, I found this news here. A U.S. doctor specializing in liposuction used the fat extracted from his clients to make biofuel for his cars. Oh well, you live and learn. Look, I know it has nothing to do with the case, but I thought it was interesting to put here. Well, back to the case. Neighbors who saw the flames were scared and called the firefighters. When firefighters arrived at the house, Raul answered them and said he was burning some old books and apologized. The firefighters then determined that it was not a fire and just took some data from Raul for recording and left without checking the area where the fire was. On January 3rd, Raul rented a car with which he traveled more than 620 miles in 2 days. He looked for places to dispose of the woman's limbs and head. He said he tied her legs to a railing and threw them into a river, but experts from the Spanish Civil Guard did not find any part of Romina's body in that river mentioned by Raul. At the end of Raul Diaz's trial, the jury found him guilty of all charges. He was sentenced to a total of 15 years and 9 months in prison. According to sources, he should have served more than 20 years, but his sentence was reduced because he confessed to the crime and also paid compensation of 300,000 euros to the victim's family. Currently, Raul Diaz is incarcerated in a prison in Spain, and the other parts of Romina's body have never been found. Good folks, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching me up to this point, and see you in the next video.